Hey everybody, we are getting ready to run our next session where my players are headed to Targos. So let's dig in. Welcome back everybody. So things are going really well with our Icewind Dale campaign. We're back on track after taking a good long break, and we're getting ready for our third session here in Icewind Dale. Let's talk about our session prep. So first thing we need to do is review the characters. We've got Jack, who is our Herringon bard, who started a concert a little while ago that went bad. The reason the concert went bad was due to the Order of Oral. He hasn't found that out yet, but soon will. We've got Kema, who is our human sorcerer, and she was a reindeer herder. Her parents made a deal with a hag, and she's trying to figure out how to get them out of that. We've got Quark, who is our dwarf cleric, who really wants to be a paladin and has making deals left, right, and center with everyone he can meet. We have Rory, who is our Leonin barbarian, and she was raised by Yetis. We're going to talk a little bit more about that today, lean into her backstory a little bit. And then we have Tavar, who is our elf ranger, who is kind of a special forces type, and we've leaned in a little bit to their backstory already. Those are our characters. We're going to want to keep them in mind as we're doing our session prep to make sure that our players are engaged at all times. Next, we have our flow, and this I put together using Canva, just like we did in our last session. So I talked to my players at the end of the last session, say, hey, here's a couple of your options. Where do you guys think you're going to go? So that I didn't have to prep all of East Haven, all of Targos, any of the other quests that I had put before them. Because I think at the time we left, there were three. They could go to East Haven and help the town speaker there. They could head to Targos to go look for Chwingas. They also talked about the murders in East Haven. They decided what they want to do is to head to Targos and try and find the end of Old Bitey's riddle. So that's where we spend our time prepping. If they go somewhere else, fine. We're at least a little familiar with some of the others from our previous prep. Plan is, from Bryn Shander, they're either going to go to Targos or to Old Bitey's riddle, and we've got those prepped. If they go to Targos, there's the nature spirits, and then we're also going to give them a new quest, mountain climb, where they may run into Rory's family. Our strong start, since it's been a little bit, we're going to go over what they know and what their options are as far as quests going forward, just to make sure we have a good understanding of that, because it has been a little bit. Scenes, we've got Old Bitey's riddle. Old Bitey is the knucklehead trout that's mounted in the Northlook that every, 5 minutes or so will pop forward and sing a little riddle to them. My party was really fascinated by this, and they're like, man, it has to lead to some treasure. And I thought, you know what? Sure, it does. Let's do it. Here is the little rhyme that Old Bitey sings. There's a place I like to go, farther up the river's flow. Where it is, I do not know. Must be under all that snow. It's going to lead them on a little treasure hunt, and eventually they're going to find a little cavern. And that cavern that they're going to find is something that I found on the internet. I have edited this in Photoshop. So here's the original that I found on, just Googled. I found this on DeviantArt. Here's a link to the original. And I took it in Photoshop and just edited it down because I didn't need all the rooms. I just needed a couple. And I've got those keyed in locations. I've got the player version and then my version. This is all going to be behind a frozen waterfall that they'll find as they follow a river up. And there is the entrance where there is a collection of just like mismatched shoes and boots, just kind of hints that there might be something funny going on. So let's talk a little bit about what exactly is happening here. The riddle was done by a wizard, a necromancy wizard. It was placed on Old Bitey in the Northlook to lead adventurers to this cavern so that the necromancer could convert them for his own purposes. Not everybody's going to go follow this down, but there have been a few. The plan is to recruit an undead army to take over, and it's going okay for the necromancer. Not as many people are following as they would have liked. That's basically why this cavern is here and what happened with Old Bitey. We've got the entrance. This just kind of shows evidence of like missing boots, those types of things, just showing things may not be 100% right, but it's also not like trying to scare people away. There's no traps. There are no bad guys here. We want you in where you can run into some things. So here is where the next room is. It's a bigger area. There is a trap here that if you're within, I think it's 30 feet, you have to make a save. Otherwise, you're charmed into walking towards this, and it's a giant like ice sculpture of Old Bitey. And when you get close, the floor drops off from under you and you fall there until the necromancer can come and convert you into an undead soldier. And then over here is basically like an ice cavern hallway where it's got some trophies of sorts. And then in here is basically where the necromancer calls home, hangs out. We'll talk about each of those rooms as we go down a little bit further. So this is all in my Notion notebook. If you're interested in this, you can add this and change it up for your own games if you'd like. So we talked about room 1 already. The second room is Old Bitey's grotto. It's got the sculpture of Old Bitey. You have to make a charisma save or you're charmed, and you head towards that on your turn. You spend your turn walking towards the statue where there is a trap and you can fall. If anything over 50 pounds, you fall 20 feet, so it's not easy to climb out. And it's far enough down, you take a little bit of damage, but it's not going to kill my level 2 players. The next room, the Frozen Room of Echoes, this is where we talked about a second ago. They're covered in frost and ice. There's markings all over the walls. They're basically the names of all of Necros, who is our necromancer. They're all of the names of all their victims that are just kind of like etched in with sharp objects. So maybe my party's names will be added there as well. There's some skeletons here. If the party heads up there, they're just hiding up on a ledge. They may come down and attack my party, or may face my party later. I haven't decided exactly where I want them, but they're there if I need them. Next room is number 4, the Necros' lair. So Necros is let's click on Necros real quick. You can see Necros is a black kobold who is a necromancer. So that's Necros. He has been recruited by Valian Harple, who is a member of the Arcane Brotherhood and has some special ties to necromancy. So Necros is sitting here plotting as the characters arrive, and he can be overheard talking to his assistant Snicket. So here's Snicket, little assistant, tiny little skeleton. He's willing to talk before attacking, but really his motivation is to grow his undead army. And he's also a little frustrated that in his words, his ingenious plan has only resulted in a handful of victims since it was put in place. So he's a little frustrated that it's not going as well as he would have hoped. But the plan here is if they do fight Necros, they will have Necros fight, and then every round, a skeleton or 2 or 3, depending on how my party's doing, will be called into the fight, and whether Necros raises them from the dead or pulls them in from another room, that'll be determined as we go throughout the battle. But I want this to be a little bit more dynamic, and I want my party to struggle a little bit through this. I don't want them all to die, but I do want them to struggle a little bit through this fight. And then if they do end up winning, some treasure that they can find is some gems, a potion of climbing, the scepter of my macabre command, which is something I created, homebrewed. It's basically the scepter that Necros uses. The wielder of this, I need to update the wording on this a little bit, but the wielder of this can command up to 3 undead creatures within 60 feet. This is an item that Necros has been using to his advantage. We've also got a note from Valian Harple. This is what the note will say. Just ensure you thoroughly interrogate any potential recruits before finalizing their induction into your ranks. In particular, inquire about their knowledge and dealings with anything related to Netherese magic, her signature, as well as the symbol of the Arcane Brotherhood. And then there's some trinkets and keepsakes, just things that Necros has found on bodies of those that he has converted into his army. So that is that, and I think it should be a lot of fun for my players to find this out. So this is future foreshadowing to the Arcane Brotherhood and the Netherese stuff that they will find towards the very end of this adventure. Let's go back to our session prep. Next, we've got our Targos area, and we've got the nature spirits finding Chwingas. I think we've talked about this in previous videos, but there is I just have this in here as a reminder. The range on the lantern that they were given by Danica is about 300 feet, and it'll turn green when there is a Chwinga nearby. Outside the outskirts of Targos, there is a little cottage that is being haunted by Chwingas. Elva is the owner of this cottage. She will be running around town saying, "Help, I need help. Someone come take a look at this." And that's where the party will find Chwingas. Will run this pretty much straight up out of the book. As they're in Targos, they may also run into the mountain climb quest, where a dog will run into them in the streets and lead the party to Keegan's house, and Keegan will basically just say, "Hey, my husband left with a group of adventurers a while ago. This is our dog that went with him. Will you guys go check it out?" They head on over to Kelvin's cairn and head up and try and find Garrett, as well as this adventuring party where they can run into some Yetis. So I've got some notes here. I've also got some random encounters that I already rolled. I like to roll my random encounters beforehand so that we can just keep going, and it's more immersive for my players. So we've got a herd of beasts, 7 mammoths that they can run into, and then on the way home they've got the snowy owlbear encounter that they can run into as well. Here's the reward, just some things worth noting on my end. All that done, secrets and clues. We've got a bunch of different ones for the character quest lines. I've got these up top because they're the most important. So we've got Jack, the Order of Oral, were the ones that caused this concert to devolve into madness. Kema is potentially the rival tribe is resorting to cannibalism. This is just a later chapter 2 quest. That's something I'm playing with. We've also got the Hag, so I'm trying to determine which one I want. Quark, we've got Abathor's rival. So Abathor is Quark's deity. Abathor's rival, Deep Dwera, is the one convincing the Durgar to try and take over, and we're going to lean into that quite a bit. For Rory, we've got the Yetis that raised her on the mountain climb mission. They were forced out of their stronghold by a group of Durgar, and the Durgar are the same ones that are working with Deep Dwera, and they are in Stoneblight. So it's a little bit further on from my party, but leaning into that now so that we can have that mean something to them when they get there. And then Tavar we've got as the member of the Arctic Blades, and we've got Tavar investigating murders right now for Hlyn. Got some notes for the different quest lines that we're going to run. So Nature Spirit, Mountain Climb, I'm not going to read through these. East Haven, these are the same as last time, just in case my party decides to go there. I won't read through these, but they're there if you're interested. NPCs, we've got these all filtered out. Again, super useful to have this little table here, you can just add filters. I've got Targos and Old Bitey's Riddle here so that I can look at these real quick, click on them, and move on with my life. Super simple. I've also got some locations here for Targos because I can't remember every 10 towns location. Monsters and stat blocks. I recently purchased Flea Mortals by MCDM, which is Matthew Colville's company. I have really enjoyed reading through this and looking at the monsters. I think this spun off from Matthew Colville's idea of action-oriented monsters, and then it has minions in here. It has a whole bunch of different roles for your monsters, artillery versus frontline versus a whole bunch of different things. It goes over tactics, which is super helpful for me, and it also gives you some new monsters. So Necris is actually using one of the stat blocks from this, the Goblin Curse Spitter. We're just going to change this from Goblin to Kobold. Here's a link for where you can find this. I got the PDF version and the physical copy, but you can get it the PDF for much cheaper. I think it's like 25 bucks or something like that. I highly recommend this though. The art in it is fantastic and the ideas and concepts in here are awesome as well. It'll challenge your players a little bit more. We've got that for Necris. I've also got some skeletons. I've got some decrepit skeletons that I may use as minions, and then some skeletons from the Flea Mortals book as well. Just some variations, and I may pick and choose as I go in, depending on how my party's handling things. For the mountain climb quest line, we've got a wolf, a commoner, we've got mountain goats. Most of these, like, they're not, my party won't be fighting, but I like to have them here in case they roll persuasion, or in case something bad happens to one of them and I need to know their hit points or something like that. It's just nice and easy for me to have these on hand. Then I've got Garrett, who is the scout that they are looking for. I've got his stats here, and my guess is my party will want to tow him around to the rest of the mountain. And then I've got crag cats that they'll fight, the yetis, a couple of those, and a yeti tyke. So I've got minis printed for all of these, and here are their stat blocks. Paraloo Fish Finger is one of the adventures they can run into that's still alive, and the others are not living anymore. Nature Spirits, I've got the Chwinga stat block here. Treasure, we've got in our Hidden Waterfall Cavern, we've got a Potion of Climbing, a Scepter of Macabre Command. Mountain Climb, we've got Potion of Invisibility and Asterisk Spellbook. So I've got little cards for each of these that I will have printed, laminated, and ready for my party. And that is pretty much it. There's a few things I need to create. We may get to it, we may not. These are just bonuses for my players, so if I get to them, great. If not, that's fine too, but I've got the cards and everything done. I just need to print them out and have them physically for my party. So that's pretty much it. Thank you guys a ton for watching. I do appreciate it. Special thanks to my patrons. You are the absolute best. We'll catch you all in the next video.